Well, imagine the fact that the whole transfer portal thing is still a thing. And it's going to continue on, and everybody wants to hear about it. So, all right. I'll tell you what I know.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday. So we're at the halfway point of the week, and I know that there's going to be some things that we're going to dive into and discuss dealing with, random things, I would say, when it comes to the world of sports and also with Arkansas and particularly what's going on with them, because I think that there's plenty of things to go around. But I will say, after talking with so many of you about on the podcast, whether it's in the comment section on YouTube or via social media or whatever it is, the thing that none of y'all can get enough of is this transfer portal. And I'm for it. Like, I am all about it. I am all about this portal. I'm all about following the portal and trying to see what happens next. And whether it's on my radio show or even on the podcast, it's just people have questions and they want to know more about it. It's incredible. In fact, I put up a poll question on my radio show asking, in the month of April, what has had your attention as a Razorback fan the most? Razorback Baseball, the portal season, or Razorback spring football? Now, Razorback Baseball won that vote, but just barely. Portal season was a very close second, and far down on the list was Razorback spring football. So everybody is really into this, and I'm into it. I'm for it. And I know that some of you may get frustrated or get tired of hearing about it, but with the constant amount of updates and things that are going on, I feel like it makes the most sense for us to discuss it and break it down and try to do our best to talk and make the most sense out of it too. So here's the thing, at least at the time of the recording of this podcast, I'm going to be honest, there hasn't been any new additions. All right. There has not been any more official commitments from the transfer portal for Arkansas. Now, Jordan Walsh put out a very cryptic video where I don't really know how to explain it. It looks like a decision is going to be coming here soon. So you have that. You have Devo Davis giving the side eyes, which who knows if that has anything to do with anything. Could just mean something that he's just wanting to get out there and have some fun with, maybe. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But it certainly gives the vibe that those guys are not going to be with the team. That would be where I'm leaning towards. And it's amazing how things change over time, where I was pretty certain that those two would be coming back next year. And, not to say that I'm 100% sure that they're not, but I just get the vibe. My gut has been going towards the fact that they are not going to return next season, but we'll cross that bridge when they get there. The point is that with this transfer portal, it's going really great for Arkansas. I've talked to some national guys, and when I'm talking about national guys, people that cover college basketball, cover recruiting, do scouting, look at transfer portals, and each and every one of them have kind of come up with the same conclusion about Arkansas and Eric Musselman, that he has done something so far in this portal that has not really been seen much before, where not only are they getting the top tier players, and when I say top tier, listen to this, the number 15, the number 18, the number 43, and the number 57 players out of the transfer portal. And Jeremiah Davenport being the one that has not received an official rating according to 24/7 Sports. Some people feel like, at least in other recruiting sites, he's right there outside the top 100. So try to compare that into like high school recruiting. And look at if you had the number 15, the number 18, the number 43, and the number 57 players coming out of high school. That would be good enough in some cases to be a top 5 recruiting class. Top 10 maybe. But certainly one that it would be viewed upon as being one of the best classes in the country. Except now with the transfer portal, this is even better than a high school class. Because with high school classes, you have true freshmen. And true freshmen who have not played at the college basketball level. And have not played against some of the high competition you're going to be facing. And may have come from an area or a particular high school that didn't have the competition to get them ready. Like, there's a lot of uncertainties, a lot of unknowns. But this is even better because all of these players have played at high-level college basketball. You're talking about Temple, Houston, Washington, Louisville, Cincinnati. All right? All of those teams have played against high-level competition. You have Temple, Houston, and Cincinnati in the AAC, which is a very highly competitive conference. You got Keon Minifield from Washington in the Pac-12, and then L. Ellis from Louisville. And it's just, if you put it into perspective, it's people are just so shocked at the fact that not only has Arkansas been able to get these big time players, but able to get them so quickly out of the portal when there's so many other schools that are kind of playing catch up, or maybe have one or two. Arkansas's got 5. So you got to put that into perspective and look at it that way, and just how impressive it truly is going for Arkansas. Now, I even hate bringing this up. I even hate approaching it this way, because I know some of you really hate it when people do this too. And I'm somebody that's not really a huge fan of it either. But when it comes to talking about what I know and talking about the things that are going on, or at least I feel like going on, I feel like I need to at least mention this. I can't go into details of it. And the only reason I can't go into details of it is because I just, I was sworn to secrecy, if you will. I just go off of what I hear, and I have my own sauces and everything. And so I'm not trying to, just be like one of these side eye emoji, tweets that doesn't really say anything of context. But then when something big happens, you say, see, I told you all along. But I'm just going to tell you what I'm hearing. Okay, let's just make it that way. I'm going to tell you what I'm hearing. And what I'm hearing right now with Arkansas in the transfer portal is not only are they not done getting guys out of the transfer portal, but there are still chances that the best player that they will get out of the transfer portal has yet to commit. As in, there might be somebody that's above, or at least a top 15, top 10, top 5, top 3 player that's in the portal that is not only interested in Arkansas, but has a legitimate chance at getting landed. Now, some of you are going to say, oh, that has to be Hunter Dickinson. And, I think that Hunter Dickinson is absolutely in the running, and I think Arkansas is in the running for Hunter Dickinson. But it may just be even more than him. There may be players that will be into the mix that you may not have heard of or you may not have known about, but once you see when it comes about and how it goes and seeing what Arkansas is able to do and getting them to campus, it might be pretty mind-blowing. There's something that's happened. There's something that has clicked. There is something that has made this entire coaching staff with Eric Musselman and Arkansas Razorback Basketball to just suddenly go insane with the portal, so much so that, again, everyone's trying to keep up. Nobody knows how they're doing this. Like other schools who are still looking into the portal, are still going for high school recruits, are still trying to recruit their own players. It's kind of a tough thing, where at Arkansas and what's going on right now, not only are they bringing in players already out of the transfer portal, but it's almost like, and it gives the vibe that everyone that's currently on the team that's not going to go pro is saying, please let me stay here. Please let me stay here at Arkansas. And then so it gives Arkansas all the power. They are basically able to select which players on the roster they want to keep, besides the guys going pro. But they basically can say, all right, we want to select the ones we want to keep. We can go into the portal and get who we think we should be able to get and who we want. And we get them in a way that's very quick. It's to the point. It's direct. And they make it very known and very clear from the get-go. And we are building this into a team that's not only going to compete at a high level in the SEC, but win a national championship, be in that competitive level. Arkansas has all the power. Eric Musselman has all the power of the roster. Now, I wish I could sit here and say that he can just go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in the portal and say, all right, top 5 guys, come here. I'm not saying that much, but I am saying that it is where everybody is interested in Arkansas, and they're interested in going to Arkansas. And that's why there's so many big players that are looking at Arkansas. They have gone all in on this portal. They took the mentality of like, all right, enough's enough. We're not doing this second weekend stuff. We're going to take it to the next level. And we're going to do whatever it takes to get to that next level. And we're going to go and we're going to get the players that we feel like can bring us to the next level. And those players are absolutely interested in going to Arkansas because of what Eric Musselman has been able to establish, what he's been able to do with individual development, as well as the team success. They're going all in. And I think that they're going to add 2 more players out of the transfer portal, which we still got to keep in mind that there could be some of these players that are committed to Arkansas at the portal that could still go pro and still go to the NBA. So got to keep that into consideration. But they're going to add 2 more guys, and those 2 guys are going to be bona fide studs. Absolute studs. And I believe when it's all said and done, and when we'll finally have a finalized roster and look back and recap how it went and what it looks like, not only do I believe that Arkansas is going to be considered to be a top 10 team by most people's standards, but I would even go as far as to say that talent-wise, bona fide high-level college basketball talent, it's going to look like where your 12th best player on scholarship would have been your 3rd best player on the team 2 years ago. Like, I'm expecting that. Like, there's a chance that Jalen Graham, and I like Jalen Graham, and this isn't an insult, it's more of a compliment to the team. There's a chance that Jalen Graham could end up being like your 11th or 12th best player on the team next year. And that's saying something. That's who they're type of players that they're looking at. They're going out and they're getting big-time players that will come in and score and put up points and play great defense. They're going to have guard heavy. I mean, you're essentially going to be looking at it to where they're going to go massive guard heavy, like for 4 position, like positional as basketball, but then have the Brazil, the Graham, some other bigs, as we'll see, get into the mix as well to be able to bring it. Like, there will be a time, I believe, where next year you could have like Jalen Graham and Trevor Brazil like on the court at the same time, maybe, and then throw in some of these other scores too, where there's so many scoring options, people won't know what to do. Teams won't know what to do. Like, how do we stop this? How do we approach this? But that's just how I'm looking at it, and that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that they have taken it to a whole new level, and they're not done yet, and they're going to add some pretty significant names here very soon. I'm excited about it. I really am. And as much as I'd again like to just throw out the names that I've been hearing, I've been sworn to secrecy because I don't want to screw up any of the current recruiting and know what's going on. So I'm excited about the next few days. I think a week from now, I give it from a week from today, a week from this Wednesday, from today. So next Wednesday, the roster is really going to look like something you've probably not seen before and probably didn't expect. And if it's as good as what, like, I think the best case scenario, from at least what I understand, if it's as good as what people are hoping for and the staff is hoping for, folks, it could be like crapping your pants type of excitement level, where everybody in the nation's talking about you, Arkansas, being like, how did they do this? How did they pull this off? How did they get this many great players? And how are all these great players going to find playing time? It's that good. It's going that well. So get back to me in a week. I like what we're seeing. I like where it's going. And who knows, maybe even sooner than that. Could be this weekend. Time will tell. Folks, we know with baseball being here, with all the grand slams and no-hitters and double plays, they're all back. And there's no better place to get in on all the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's right, because right now, new customers can step up to the plate and get the no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. So just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to place your first bet and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. You know, it comes to parlays. It comes to over-unders on runs scored. It comes to the money lines and all the different cool things that you can have with all the different specials. It's all about FanDuel.com. So don't miss your chance with the no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 where you can join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So we're doing a little baseball talk here as been having some fun with baseball. You know, I know that it's really about the postseason, and that's what matters the most is when they get to that point, when they finally can say, all right, well, how good is this team? Because right now in the regular season, it's great if you're trying to get to the point to where you're, getting regionals or super regionals or being a national seed, whatever it is. Like it's nice to when you can start preparing for that. But when it comes to the success of your squad and your team and everything that goes along with it, The only thing that matters, and I mean the only thing that matters, is, of course, postseason play. But I was able to talk with some people and talking about Arkansas and what they've been able to do so far this year. And it's pretty incredible. We talked about it with the injuries and what they've had to deal with and what they've had to go through and trying to put it all together to make it to where it's working out. And they find ways to keep winning games and all of that. But I had Trent Daniel, former Razorback pitcher, on my radio show today, and he was in studio. And we were talking about Dave Van Horn. And, like the thing that's missing, of course, from him is the College World Series title. And I think most people feel like it's going to happen. It's going to happen at some point. Surely it's going to happen. We're hoping that it happens. But like looking at this team, it's like how Dave Van Horn is able to just keep making this work. Because we see other teams in college baseball and even in the SEC that has good coaches, really good coaches, and had great recruiting, but can't figure it out, that are struggling and trying to put it all together and make it work. Tennessee's one of those teams. Like they lost, I think, Tennessee Tech today. Like what? How are you supposed to be one of the best teams in the SEC when you're looking bad? Like your recruiting's been great, but you're just making boneheaded mistakes. LSU, of course, they got every transfer and every talent from Kingdom Come, and they're the number one team in the country, but they're not invincible. Like they're not just completely and totally unbeatable. I think they are the best team, but it's not like they're just rolling through everybody like it's nobody's business. But my point is that there are a lot of teams out there that have equal amount of talent, or at least on paper, have equal amount of talent as Arkansas. There's other teams that have had a lot less injuries to significant players, to their pitching rotation. There's a lot of other teams out there that did not lose their ace to start the season, and arguably their second or third best bullpen guy, and then arguably their best closer for a significant period of time. And then on top of all that, also one of their best hitters for a significant period of time. Like nobody's dealing with the negatives as far as injuries go as much as Arkansas is, which they're having other teams. But what Arkansas is able to do is they're able to do that while also winning and succeeding. That's coaching at its finest. Now, it's a long regular season. You still got 5 SEC series left to go. You still got work to do. So you can't just start, planning the parade just yet. But where you're at right now, considering the injuries and considering the craziness that you had to go through, you have to give all the credit to Dave Van Horn and his staff. Obviously, the players stepping up into the roles too. But I feel like lesser teams and lesser coaches would have faltered a lot quicker and a lot easier than what Dave Van Horn's been able to do. There's a lot of other teams out there that, again, have less injuries and just as much talent, but are sucking. Like they just can't figure it out. They're making a lot of mistakes. And then to throw even more on top of that, think about it this way too. Last year's team for Arkansas went to Omaha. They were a College World Series team. They won a few games in the College World Series too. But think about how many players Arkansas lost out of that lineup. I mean, they essentially lost their 2 best players in the infield with Bob Moore and Jalen Battles. They lost those guys. And you think about Caden Wallace and how good he was, Michael Turner and how good he was. And you think about the outfield and the guys that they had to replace there. I mean, the entire lineup was gone, essentially. They only returned a few players here and there. So putting all of that together and think about that whole process, it is incredible what Dave Van Horn's able to do and has been able to do. And I hope he continues it on. I know he will. And I think we all know that there's going to be some time he's going to get that championship. Let's hope so. He deserves it. If anybody deserves it, he deserves it. And I always struggled calling Dave Van Horn the GOAT. I know people will probably get mad at me for that, but it's just true because it's like, you got to get that title, man. You got to get the title. And once you get the title, you will be the GOAT. But it's like, he's in his prime, man. He's in his prime of when he keeps just winning. He keeps being successful year after year, time and time again. And you just got to tip your hat to him. So hopefully it continues on. Hopefully he's able to keep putting this together and keep winning games, especially with the injuries going on. But I just wanted to give a kudos to Dave Van Horn and the job that he's doing. And if he can close out this season strong and be able to host a regional, super regional, and get people back healthy, Arkansas is going to be a very, very dangerous team and maybe a force to be reckoned with once postseason comes around. We get into our final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast coming up next, so stay with us.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. This one's a sad one, and I wanted to do it yesterday on the podcast, but I had already recorded it by the time that this news had broke. And I'm sure a lot of you who have followed Razorbacks and maybe listened to my radio show or read social media, whatever. But former Razorback defensive end Chris Smith passed away at the age of 31, and it's just awful. It's just awful. And for those of you who may not remember, he was out of North Carolina. He signed with the Razorbacks in Bobby Petrino's season in 2010. He finished his career at Arkansas in 2013. Kind of went through the tumultuous years there too. But he got 122 tackles and 21 and a half sacks during his career at Arkansas. And on top of that, he also spent 8 seasons in the NFL with 6 different franchises. He was drafted in the 5th round by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And his last season in the NFL was in 2021 with the Houston Texans. And as far as recently as just weeks ago, Chris Smith was playing with the Seattle Sea Dragons of the XFL this season and had accumulated 5 tackles in 4 games. Nobody knows, at least at the point of this recording, how he passed. And whatever it is, it had to be pretty sudden, because if he's playing the XFL this year, it wasn't like this chronic illness you wouldn't think. And maybe hopefully there's not any foul play or anything involved in it either, but still, it was just it was gut-wrenching to see this. I know Brian Wallace, a former Razorback, passed away. This was the last year, and that was really tough. And then see that Chris Smith, a guy that I was actually on campus at the U of A when he was there, and I didn't have a whole lot of interactions with him, but the times I actually did interact with him, the one thing that I always knew is that the dude was just happy. He was a happy, smiling guy, always nice and generous to everybody, and always laughing and just having a good time. It seemed like life was so fun to him, and it was infectious almost. And I think that just from talking to some of the former teammates of his at Arkansas and people that I still call friends to this day, they kind of echoed that same sentiment, where they just knew that, hey, this guy was just a lot of heart and a lot of energy and always so happy. And so you hate seeing that. You really hate seeing that. And what makes it just on top of it all worse is that you may have I don't know if you remember the story, but essentially he also had it happen, I believe it was a year or so ago, maybe a year and a half ago, where he was changing a tire on the side of the road and his girlfriend was killed after they got struck by a vehicle, and which had to be just gut wrenching. And he also has 4 children. And that's just, hearing that, it's just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking, and nothing you ever want to see, especially with someone so young at the age of 31. So, but listen, Chris Smith was an awesome Razorback. He was a really good player, really good defensive end. He was a guy that was voted captain on the team, obviously good enough to play in the NFL. And he was also a player that had to go through some ups and downs when it comes to the Petrino era, into the John L. Smith era, and into the Bielema era. But always stuck it out and always was just somebody that I always appreciated watching, and was very appreciative of his time at Arkansas. And it's just so tragic. So thoughts and prayers to his family, to his kids, and to everybody involved in the situation. And hopefully they can find peace with it, because again, it's really terrible. It's really terrible. So thoughts and prayers to all of them. Appreciate everybody listening into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.